Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless host, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having a fantastic Wednesday, wherever you may be. Got to knock out the show, then I'm going to hop on a flight here soon, head to LA for the rest of the weekend. So I'm not sure exactly what my availability will be on Outkick the Show. We'll still have Outkick the coverage. I'll still be writing. I'll still be tweeting everything else, but I'll be on the road a little bit to get ready for the return of Season 2 of Lock It In, which is debuting on Monday for Season 2. So Cousin Sal, Todd Furman, Rachel Bonetta, all of us will be back come Monday in about, 5 days, thereabouts. All right, so we got a lot to get to. Off the top, in the event she is watching this, happy anniversary to my wife. We have been married 15 years today. I'm 40 years old. I got married at the age of 25. That is young, but 15 years in, 3 kids, everything is going great there. Several things I want to hit off the jump here. Jay-Z joins the NFL's Social Justice Initiative. Big story, big quotes here. Antonio Brown on Hard Knocks last night. I don't know how many of you watched Hard Knocks last night. I thought it was intriguing. Andrew Luck, health scare. This is significant now for the Colts, especially for Colts fans who lived through once before an Andrew Luck health crisis that ended up costing him an entire year. The SEC Network, in addition to it being my 15th year anniversary, it is the 5-year anniversary of the SEC Network. How has it changed things? We'll talk a little bit about that. And CBS and Viacom merge. That is a fairly interesting story as well in the world of media, business, politics, and whatnot. But I want to start with Jay-Z joining the NFL. You guys know, at least people who listen or watch this show regularly, that I read 2 actual newspapers every day. All right? I am old man Clay in this respect. I read the Wall Street Journal and I read the New York Times. And I do that because I like to have a balanced perspective on the news of the day. I like to actually have a newspaper that I can read because I end up reading articles that I otherwise wouldn't. I think it takes me out of whatever social media silo I have created for myself where I tend to be fed only the same information all the time. That way I get what I think it's fair to say is a left-wing perspective from the New York Times, and I get a little bit more of a right-wing perspective from the Wall Street Journal. Allows my brain to do something that is important, which is interact with ideas that are coming from a variety of different perspectives. That's where I think true creativity arises, when you can deal with dueling perspectives and try to find some common ground among both. So I give you that background for this reason. This is a big deal for the NFL because I think what it does is it brings Jay-Z and the NFL owners into a union that makes a lot of sense. Let me take a step back and explain what I mean. Jay-Z is the quintessential American capitalist. All right, you may not love Jay-Z, you may not like his music. I happen to think that he is a creative genius, which is mixed with a business genius, which is rare, okay? I have a great deal of respect for people who are so creative that they can make great new products, but also that they have the ability to simultaneously unlock great business potential. And the analogy that I like to use here is, I think the Marvel movies have done this almost better than anybody else, right? If you watch the Marvel movies, what they have managed to do is twin incredible creativity for a large market with simultaneously a great business model. That's what Jay-Z has done with the world of music. That's what the NFL has done with the world of sports. They have taken something that is popular, that people like, and they have simultaneously made it into a great business. So Jay-Z and the NFL owners actually have a great deal in common. They are the ultimate capitalist. You guys know that I am a card-carrying member of the capitalist fraternity. I believe that capitalism is the greatest form of economic progress ever created in the history of the world. Is it perfect? No, because it is the creation of imperfect humans. But of all of the systems of financial order that have ever been created throughout mankind, capitalism is the best, and a capitalistic democracy is the best government and financial combination that has ever existed in the history of the world, which is why America has thrived as it has. If you really break down Jay-Z's career, he is the ultimate capitalist. And he has become the ultimate capitalist because he will sell his music to anybody who buys it. Doesn't matter what your political equation is. Doesn't matter what your race is, what your gender is. In fact, you know the number one consumer of hip-hop in America? White people. If white people stopped buying hip-hop music, the business would collapse. So Jay-Z has used his music to make himself incredibly wealthy no matter who buys the music. And as a result, Jay-Z is a famous line, right? I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. As somebody who does that basically for a living, I can respect the capitalism ingrained in Jay-Z. And what I loved was, and I'm sure he's probably going to get criticized for this in some quarters, when I read this article early this morning in the Wall Street Journal, there are quotes from Jay-Z which are reflective of how businessmen think, right? Think about this. I'm black, that's my world, Jay-Z said in an interview with the Wall Street Journal. But he also said if he didn't do business with wealthy business interests who he may disagree with politically, he, quote, couldn't have any TV shows. I couldn't put my platform on TV because I'm sure someone who supports the broadcast network has supported someone who I don't believe should be in office. I can't control, no one can control the world that we live in currently and people's choice to vote self-interest. On top of that, he said something else that I think is very, very interesting. He absolutely, we like to think of the way we build that Inspire Change platform. This is Jay-Z. That if anything close to that, meaning the protests like Colin Kaepernick's, would happen in the future, then Kaepernick would have a platform where he can express himself and maybe it doesn't have to take place on the field. Boom. Jay-Z now is the conduit between the players and everybody else who is in this universe. They then have the ability to break down everything surrounding this universe, right? This in and of itself is incredibly interesting because effectively what Jay-Z is doing is he is the bridge between the owners who are majority white and the players who are majority black. The reality is everybody in the NFL boat is on the same side. They share revenue. From a capitalistic perspective, if you share revenue, what should you want to do? If you are a capitalist and you share revenue with someone, what should you want to do? Grow revenue! This isn't rocket science. The players get 47% of all the revenue that's produced in the NFL. Instead of arguing about politics, businessmen sit down and figure out a way to grow revenue. Everybody, players, owners, executives, everybody employed by the NFL should all be focusing on the same thing, which is growing revenue because it brings them more money. Your politics are great. Advocate for whatever you want. Support whoever you believe offers the best direction for the country. But in your business life, maximize your revenue. And this is why I think Jay-Z, smart businessman, that's why Jay-Z can make sense here for the NFL. He can help to be the conduit to make that argument in a way probably that Roger Goodell or other owners can't and won't, right? This also, to Jay-Z's credit, is the exact opposite of the cancel culture which exists in our society, particularly on the left wing. The cancel culture believes that if you interact with anyone at all who is a differing political opinion of you, you are in some way legitimizing their political viewpoints. This is what Megan Rapinoe believes. This is what Colin Kaepernick believes. This is what the far left wing in this country and some on the far right wing actually believe, okay? They believe that if you interact with anybody, whether it's the president, whether it's Mitch McConnell, whether it's somebody who is on the opposite side of you, then in their opinion, you are complicit in whatever things they advocate for. I fundamentally reject that as an out-of-hand idea. The entire purpose of a capitalistic democracy is to create conversations between people who disagree and to lead to successful outcomes. And a successful outcome is a rising tide that lifts all their boats. Now, here is a bigger context here. All right, here's a bigger context. If leagues and players and coaches and whoever else want to get involved in American policy, here is my argument that makes complete sense, that is as simple as 3 parts. Data has shown in America, if you do 3 things, you will not be poor. All right? I can't guarantee that you're going to be rich. I can tell you that if you do 3 things, you will not be poor. And if you're not poor, then many of the ills which afflict our society are adjustable and fixable, right? Here is something that matters in a big way. Instead of social justice warriors trying to attack everything and change larger systems, how about you change your own life first? And how about while changing your own life, you lift up a lot of other people and teach them important things that can help them? And so I wish athletes, I wish coaches, I wish teams, I wish leagues got involved in this way, all right? I wish that we had a major public education campaign in this country to teach people 3 things. You do these 3 things, it's virtually a 0% chance you will be poor when you're an adult. No matter what race you are, no matter what socioeconomic group you were born into, no matter what your current life situation is, all right? Are you ready? Graduate high school. Graduate from high school. It's not that hard. Keep going to school. Graduate from high school. I'm not saying go to college. I'm not saying go to community college. I'm not saying that you need to go get a PhD. I'm not saying you need to get a law degree or a medical degree. I'm saying graduate high school. Every single person on the planet can manage to graduate high school if they put themselves and the effort on an individual basis into doing it. Number 1. Number 2, don't have a kid before the age of 25. Graduate high school at 18 years old, work for 7 years in some form or fashion, either go to school or find a job. Do not have a kid before the age of 25. Relatively easy to do. Individual responsibility, graduate high school, don't have a kid before 25. Number 3, get married before you have a child. If you do those 3 things, which really, in the grand scheme of things, are not that hard to do and all directly impact personal responsibility, making good individual decisions. If you graduate high school, if you don't have a kid until you're 25 years old, and if you get married before you have a kid, do you know that in this country today, your poverty rate is 0? Virtually 0. That is, if you graduate high school, you don't have a kid before 25, and you get married before you have children. 3 very basic pieces of advice that everybody can follow as an individual. You are pretty much guaranteed that you won't be poor. I would hammer that home to the high heavens. I would preach it to everyone. And I don't see it as political. I don't see it as partisan. I don't see it as anything other than the equivalent of a team saying, like, hey, don't drink and drive. Wear a seatbelt. It's basic, data-driven analytics beyond a shadow of a doubt, which will prove that you can be more successful. And if you are a social justice warrior, many of the ills in society with which you want to combat are rooted in poverty. So by limiting poverty, you are actually raising up everybody and you're helping society as a whole. That should be the social justice warriordom that athletes should get behind if they wanted to make a substantial difference. Imagine how much difference if athletes all got behind that same message. If athletes all got behind that same message and started to teach all the young kids this idea, imagine how much of a difference that would make in society. That is using your platform for good, and it isn't alienating anybody. It isn't picking sides. It isn't saying, oh, you should be a Democrat, or oh, you should be a Republican, or oh, you should believe this or that. It doesn't require demonizing people. It's just damn good advice. That is big time the difference maker forever. Would change everything. Boom. All right. So I like the Jay-Z move. I think it's smart for the NFL. I'm sure he'll probably get criticized by the same woke individuals who are unhappy anytime anyone does anything other than be super woke. But I think it's a smart move. Antonio Brown on Hard Knocks. Congratulations to Antonio Brown on becoming the first man in the history of the world to somehow get frostbite in the hottest month in the history of France. July of this past year is the hottest month in the history of ever in France. And Antonio Brown somehow managed to get frostbite in France. It's really unbelievable. This man was not serving in Valley Forge. This man was not lost in the Antarctic region. He was in a cryogenic chamber trying to help himself. And this is, by the way, gonna have to block somebody here. This is an utterly ridiculous position to be in. All right. So as you break down Antonio Brown, they had a little bit of a discussion about it on Hard Knocks, and I think it's fair to say that Jon Gruden is losing patience with Antonio Brown. They publicly had said all the right things, but even in an edited form video, behind-the-scenes look at Hard Knocks he was not happy with the fact that Antonio Brown was not there, and as a result, this turned into a pretty fascinating story in and of itself. All right, so I don't like Antonio Brown's future with the Raiders. I'm not that optimistic about it at all. So I think that the Steelers are laughing all the way to the bank here, even though they only got a third and a fifth round. They avoided having to pay him tons of money, and I think the Raiders are already thinking, what in the world did we do with the decision with Antonio Brown? Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck is one of the top 5, 6, 7-ish quarterbacks in the NFL. I liked him to win the MVP this season. I liked the Colts to come out potentially of the AFC alongside of the Chiefs and the Patriots to be one of the 3 best teams in the AFC. But now this Andrew Luck story, if you haven't been paying attention to it, he has got major issues with his foot. And as a result, there could be some seismic issues going forward for him. I'm not sure exactly what is going to end up happening. And I think this is going to be a fascinating issue going forward to see what happens with Andrew Luck. We've already been through this once before. With Andrew Luck, where the Colts kept slow playing it, and then boom, he didn't end up actually playing. This is potentially going to be a big issue going forward if you're drafting fantasy, if you're gambling on the futures market. The first 3 games for the Colts are pretty tough. They play at the Chargers, then they play the Titans, and they've beaten the Titans 11 straight games. I think they're at the Chargers, at the Titans to start the season, if I'm not mistaken. And then I believe they play the Falcons in Indianapolis. All 3 of those games are pretty easy. The 4th one is the Raiders. I think they can beat the Raiders in Indy, but this is tough if the Colts aren't able to roll with Andrew Luck coming out of the gate in week 1. The first 3 games are going to be really bad situations going forward. Had to block another person. A lot of times on this show, by the way, it's amazing how many people you can automatically tell are dumb, yet they feel compelled to share their opinions in the comments section. Like if I can read your comment and be like, you are at best a borderline high school graduate, you're probably not going to say anything that's that smart for anybody who's watching this show or interacting with it. Just FYI. If I can read one comment from yours and be like, yeah, I think you struggled to graduate from high school, you're probably not going to raise the level of discourse of this show. You might not like me. You might even hate me. You might think I'm the worst human being on the earth. But guess what? I'm really, really smart. Statistically, analytically driven, pretty much everywhere. In fact, I'm so smart that if you want to make the contrary argument to what I am saying, all you need to know is that I would make the argument better than you would. You could almost tag team high five me. Whatever argument you want to make, I'm better at making it than you are. You know how during debate they'll ring a bell? We could easily on my radio show or on this show have a bell that we ring, and I could flip mid-sentence and start to make the other argument, and I could make the other argument better than you could. That's because I'm smarter than you most of the time. Unless you think you're in the 99.99 percentile, you're probably not going to outsmart me. And even if you're there, you're probably not as good at communication as I am. I speak well. I'm talented. And damn if I don't have fine hair. Also, 5-year anniversary for the SEC Network. All right? 5 years ago, the SEC Network launched. 15 years ago, I got married to my wife, Laura. We have 3 kids now. The SEC Network doesn't have any kids yet, but it's been a fabulous success. It has fundamentally altered what people believe a conference television network is capable of. It's been insanely lucrative. It's now tossing off around $15 million per school per year. And to put that into context, do you remember when the Longhorns, Texas, signed that deal for the Longhorn Network with ESPN, and everybody talked about how massive it was going to be and what a tremendous difference maker it was going to be? Every SEC school now is making more money from the SEC Network than Texas makes from the Longhorn Network. That's how incredibly successful it is. So the SEC Network is dominating. The big story for the SEC as we get ready for another year of college football. By the way, Joel Klatt will be my guest next week on the Wins and Losses podcast if you haven't already subscribed to it. The big story in the SEC Network is they're going to sign with the CBS deal is going to end in a few years. And they're going to sign a deal the likes of which no one has ever seen before, I believe, for their SEC game of the week and for the SEC championship game, the package that CBS has right now. It will be interesting to see how much that actually sells for. All right, pause for a sec. Somebody just said, intelligent people don't brag about their intelligence. It's not bragging if it's true. I'm not bragging about my intelligence. I'm telling you I'm fucking smart. Just like I'm telling you that I'm fucking rich. And just like I'm telling you that I got great hair. I'm telling you the truth. It ain't bragging if you back it up. It's just simply telling you the truth. Just because you're unhappy with it, because you're probably not as successful as me, ain't my problem. All right? You deal with the brilliance that comes out of this mouth and that derives from this head on a day-to-day basis. If you can't handle it, that's not my problem. The fact that you yourself are not as educated or as erudite as me or is able to string together sentences in such a beautiful sequence is not my problem. And of course I'm going to tell you about it. It's my job. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. There once was Muhammad Ali, and now there's me. All right, CBS and Viacom has merged, all right? This is, I think, utterly interesting from a business perspective. What's going to happen with CBS and Viacom merging? They're trying to get back big enough to be competitive with the Netflix, with the Disneys, with the Comcasts of the world. And we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but now you got Comedy Central, MTV, CBS Sports, as we were just talking about, all underneath the same umbrella. I think CBS and Viacom is going to have to expand again and end up getting even bigger. And it's going to be intriguing to see what exactly ends up happening there. One of the first big decisions, I think, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is what is going to happen with the overall decision with the SEC Network as it pertains to the SEC game of the week. I don't think CBS is going to be able to keep it. That's, for CBS Sports, a really big decision to make because it's a huge profit portion of their deal. It is, in fact, the most profitable deal that exists in all of the media right now as it pertains to sports media. All right. I love all of you. It's a good point. Amazon or Facebook could decide to buy it at this point. Going to be about a $30 billion company. We'll see whether either of those companies makes that decision. All right. I got to go hop on a flight soon, head out west, get some work done before we launch season 2 of Lock It In. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. I appreciate all of you. Thanks for hanging with me. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. Share the show if you enjoy it. I will talk to you guys again soon, maybe while I'm out in LA. If not, I'll be back on Monday. See you guys. Kisses. Happy anniversary to the SEC Network. Happy anniversary to my wife, Laura. 3 things you need to do. Graduate high school. Don't have a kid till you're 25. Get married. You will be maybe not rich like me, but at least you won't be poor. See you guys. Bye. Love you. See y'all.